My name's Hunter Wagenaar. I'm a third year. I'm majoring in foreign affairs, and I'm from Fairfax, Virginia.
I'm Ellen Yates. I'm a third year. I'm studying political and social thought, and I'm from here in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Oh, my favorite study spot? Probably Alderman Cafe.
I really like, there's a study room in Clark right next to the stacks, but it's on the lower level. There's a really cozy chair by the window, and I like having light where I study. I like a plain bagel with turkey, lettuce, and honey mustard.
My Bodo's order is a plain bagel, I know boring, but with sausage, egg, and American cheese.
I've worked on multiple levels of student council, so I started as a committee member, became chair of a committee, then I served briefly as chief of cabinet, where I helped coordinate activities between cabinet chairs and helped run cabinet meetings, and I'm currently vice president for administration, so I oversee all the administrative apparatuses for student council. I'm also an RA and a moderator for sustained dialogue. I think these have given me really soft skills. I know how to handle crises when they arise. I know how to communicate with diverse groups of people, and I know how to work towards compromise with different stakeholders.
You know, I started my own organization on grounds Who's for Inclusive Sexual Education, advocating for LGBTQ inclusive sex ed on grounds. I've been a resident advisor, and I've gotten to see the perspectives of many students as they grow at this university. And through both of those experiences, I feel that now I want to advocate for the entire student body. Well, there's a lot that I would change. You know, our campaign is sort of a complete overhaul of student council. But I think one thing that I would change is sort of the ideas surrounding how a leader should act. I think that oftentimes students here expect sort of student leaders or organization leaders to sort of take on everything. And I think that that's really damaging for our mental health.
I think I'd like to change the way that the concept of student self-governance is implemented at the university. It's often treated a lot like a buzzword at UVA, but the way it's implemented means that students are doing a lot of the work without really having much empowerment or given much resources to do that work, and then don't have much say in what final decisions are made. And so I think a lot of what we're trying to do with our platform is turn that concept on its head.
I think student self-governance means to me empowering others. So in my time at this university, in my first year, there were a number of individuals who sort of led me in the right direction, which later on allowed me to sort of grow and progress as a leader. And I think that every student leader should sort of have that same energy. I think if we're self-governing, that means empowering the next generation of students to lead.
Student self-governance means that students aren't just brought into rooms to be representatives of the student body and to be sort of a presence, which I think is how a lot of students are treated. Students aren't just conduits for information. They're actually doing really incredible work as their own individual agents of change and through other organizations. And so I think that student self-governance needs to apply to the ability of individual students to be recognized and given resources for their own individual work, not simply to be sort of placeholders for student voice in rooms with administration who are making the real decisions. I want to regain that trust that students have lost in student council by working to provide the resources and the infrastructure that student council already has to promote and advocate for the work that students are already doing across the university. A lot of students have been working on projects that haven't gotten as much resources or recognition, and we don't want to just co-opt that. We want to create a space for student council to provide the resources for them to continue that work and continue to make change.
Our platform is pretty comprehensive, but one is the establishment of a third vice president. So right now on student council, you have the VPA and the VPO. We want to make a new position that's called the Vice President of Student Resources. And under that Vice President, we want to create a mediation body that advocates for student workers. Another sort of fun one is we want to eliminate all of our offices. So we think that sort of student council executives having offices fosters elitism, and we want to get rid of them and replace them with CIO storage space, since CIOs desperately need that.
I think this goes back to, again, forming coalitions that provide resources to different organizations that are fighting for change, both to create diverse spaces on grounds and to promote greater diversity on grounds. We also want to reach out to communities at UVA that historically haven't been considered, for example, the international community or staff at the university.
I think that oftentimes a lot of movements, whether they be at the university or in the Commonwealth or in the country, the important voices are not being centered enough. So I think student council can play this important role that I will lead as president in centering and amplifying those voices that are relevant to a movement. You know, I have this story of when I was collecting signatures to get on the ballot. It was about 20 first-year girls in this dorm room. They were all meeting for a sort of sorority event. And I asked them, do you know who your student council representative is? And they all said no. And I said, do you know anyone on student council? And they all said no. And I asked them, do you know what student council does? And they said no. And I think that's sort of the reason I'm running. You know, at UVA, we pride ourselves on student self-governance. But our sort of platform is to put the student back in student self-governance.
Voting is incredibly important because without it, there's such a lack of accountability for your representatives and people who are working for you in student government. Last year, the representatives for the College of Arts and Sciences all ran uncontested elections. And when we have uncontested elections and general lack of student engagement in who's being elected, people are less accountable to the needs of constituents. We want to re-engage students in the process of, being sort of citizens in a government, of listening to students' needs, and being held accountable to our jobs, which is providing for students, ensuring their safety and their well-being, and the quality of life here at the university. But all of that begins with casting a ballot, making sure that you're voting for the people that you think will do the best job of representing you, who have the experience to work with both all of the sort of internal stakeholders of student council and also all the external stakeholders in change at the university. All of that is decided, in the first place at the ballot.